Unless there's a last-minute deal, the U.S. government is going to shut down at midnight tonight. And while Republicans like J.D. Vance blame Democrats with wanting to give illegal aliens health care, it's all bullshit. Not that offering assistance to undocumented people who put $90 to $100 billion a year into Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and don't get a thing back, well, it might be just my little Christian to do something for them. Obviously, that's not where we are. For the record, Republicans control the shutdown in every way you possibly can. The House is run by Republicans. The Senate is run by Republicans. The White House is a Republican. And the ultra-conservative Supreme Court, they're all in bed too. So how can you blame Democrats? All right, to try and understand what this shutdown means and how it all started, joining me right now is a representative from New York's 3rd Congressional District, Congressman Tom Suozzi, one of the few Democrats, by the way, who won a seat in a district that voted for Trump, who, by the way, canceled a meeting Monday that was intended to resolve this impasse. Congressman, where do we stand right now?
You know, I think that there's some high-level meetings going on still, people trying to talk to each other, see if they can avert this thing. I'm talking to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and some Democrats as well. But I think both sides are really dug in. I feel like both sides think, you know, we have self-righteousness on our side. And the Democrats are like, hey, you haven't negotiated with us all year long. Everything's been my way or the highway. You're shoving these things down our throat. There's been the first meeting the president had with Schumer and Jeffries, who are the Democratic leaders in the House and the Senate, was on Monday. And that nothing really came out of that. But that's been, how many months has it been? 10 months. And that was the first time you met with the Democrat.
Yeah, and then of course, he posted that meme.
Oh my gosh, that was
I mean, it's a racist meme. If people haven't seen it before, I'll throw it up here on the screen in a minute. But it's unfathomable. I mean, you're dealing with a child here.
Well, he's the president of the United States of America, and we expect a lot more from the president of the United States. Well, I guess I don't expect anything now, but it's just wrong. And it's the president is a master of changing the topic. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that the Republicans control the presidency, the Senate, and the House. They're in charge. If they want to get some votes from the Democrats, you got to negotiate with us. You're running the show. So he doesn't want to talk about that. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that the Democrats are saying, hey, everybody's health insurance costs are about to go through the roof. Their premiums are going to go through the roof because you're canceling what are called premium tax credits, which are reducing the cost of health insurance for a lot of people. It'll force a bunch of people, 4 million people, off of their insurance, which will make everybody else's insurance go up. So we're about to see double-digit increases in people's insurance premiums announced on November 1st, taking place on December 31st. So we want to try and fix that. So they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the fact that they haven't negotiated and they're running the whole show. So they try to change the topic, like doing that crazy AI-generated video that the president put out. And every minute he tries to change the topic when he doesn't like what we're talking about.
Yeah, you mentioned how this is all part of the Affordable Care Act marketplace coverage, right? And it's going to affect millions of people. And it was part of a 2021 Rescue Act to try to make sure people got coverage. I mean, it's an obscene embarrassment of what way we treat people in this country with healthcare, acting like it's some special privilege. And we have, of course, J.D. Vance out saying that all we want to do is provide, I say we, a Democrat, provide care for illegal aliens. That's his language. And of course,
that's just not true what he's saying.
But just how about this? Undocumented people put close to $100 billion into Social Security and Medicare, and they don't get a dime in Medicaid.
Yeah, but don't even take the bait. I mean, because the reality is that the 4 million people that are going to get kicked off their health insurance are documented citizens who go to work every day. And, they're just getting reductions in their health insurance premiums, which caused 12 more million people to get health insurance because they can afford it now. And by them getting insurance, that creates a bigger pool. So that lowers everybody's health insurance premiums in the process. So this is, what do people care about? What do the people in the United States of America want us to talk about? They want us to lower costs. They want us to deal with the immigration problem. They want us to deal with taxes. They want us to deal with public safety, and they want us to deal with healthcare. That's what people say they care about. Let's work on solving those problems. Let's work across party lines, find some common ground, and address those things, and stop all this craziness with distractions all over the place.
All negotiations involve leverage. What leverage do the Democrats have against a guy who doesn't really seem to care about the country or the economy, only how it affects him? I mean, it's the most incredible grift I've ever seen in my life.
Well, there's three things that you can do. I mean, this goes for everybody. You can legislate. That's not easy to do when you're in the minority, so you don't have enough votes to legislate unless you can convince some Republicans to join with you. But that's why winning is so important. You can legislate. You can litigate, and we've been winning a lot of cases, but now we're seeing a bunch of bad stuff happen at this, even at this high at the Supreme Court level. So that's becoming even more of a concern about that strategy. So litigate, legislate. But the third thing you can do is motivate. Get people involved in the process. And I think that the people of America, very concerned. You ask them about the big issues that I just talked about that they care about. They care about lowering costs and they care about health insurance as two of their top five. That's what we're fighting for in this fight. We're fighting to reduce people's health care costs so more people can have health insurance. That's this fight we're having is.
We were talking earlier about the shutdown during Trump's first 4 years, about the wall, funding the wall. And that was one of the longest, I think it was the longest ever government shutdown. I want to say 35 days or something, a long time. And there's been 21 of these in the last half century. It's not totally uncommon.
It's becoming more common lately, but yeah.
I'm watching the Today Show with my wife this morning, and all they talk about is, people are going to be let off, and then they make it. They don't talk anything at all about what Trump's budget portends for the American people. And and I guess it's one of these things that Bannon loved to talk about. Let's throw so much stuff out there they can't cover one thing because they're trying to look at all of them.
They call it muzzle velocity. You can't focus on anything because there's so many things coming at you from the muzzle.
Yeah, of course, which works against the interest of the American people at every level. So what do you think about going in tonight? Obviously, after midnight, we have a weekend. Do you see that any pressure? I mean, Mike Johnson has a stranglehold on the House.
We need the public. We need the public to be engaged, and right. I think that both sides, are really looking for a fight. Unfortunately, and the Republicans have become very accustomed to getting what they want this whole year, and as a result, they don't feel they have to negotiate. So we need to negotiate. I mean, I think there's a compromise to be found here to do a short-term continuing resolution with a promise to fix the Affordable Care Act. Premium tax credits to lower people's prices and to stop this business of we negotiate a deal and then you change the deal unilaterally on one side. I don't know if you follow this whole thing about rescissions and impoundment and the president, one of the things that this whole debate is about is called a clean CR, a clean continuing resolution. And the idea of a continuing resolution is you have a budget as far back as 2024. In 2025, we couldn't negotiate a new budget, so they did continuing resolutions over a series of time, ultimately a year-long CR, continuing resolution, which is bad policy to even do that. And they did it on their own. Remember, Chuck Schumer voted for it at the last minute and brought the votes in. He got beaten up by the far left for doing that. But that budget included all kinds of cuts to the National Institutes of Health. It cut money from what's called the PACT Act to give money to the Veterans Administration to deal with the guys who have all these respiratory problems related to the burn pits in the wars we were fighting in the Middle East. They cut money from different infrastructure projects in each of the congressional districts. I mean, it goes on and on, all the things that they cut. Then they did rescissions where they cut more. Remember, they cut things from the USAID and they cut money from PBS and they cut money from different programs throughout the world. And then they said, we're not going to spend money. We're going to impound the money. We're not going to spend it at all. The president said this on his own unilaterally, where he said, I'm just not going to spend the money because I don't like that program. That's too democratic a program. That's, that's DEI or that's climate change. I don't believe in that stuff. So I'm not going to spend the money. That violates the Constitution. Article 1 of the Constitution says the power of the purse comes from the Congress. You can't just do this on your own unilaterally. What incentive is there for us to make a deal? Say, hey, let's agree on a budget. Let's make a deal. If you're going to go out and unilaterally change it afterwards, why would we trust you ever again? Both sides work to negotiate a compromise. You come up with a compromise, and the president says, I didn't like that piece. I'm going to take that out. So that's where we are right now.
Well, and the question is, of course, why Republicans trust Trump. He attacks and...
I don't know that that's what it is. I think they're afraid of him because right now, most of the seats in Congress, of the 435 seats, 400 seats are safe seats, Democratic and Republican, safe seats. When you're in a safe seat, you don't listen to the people because you're going to win anyway. The only way you could lose is by losing a primary. Nobody votes in the primaries. Very few people vote in the primaries. But the people who vote in the Republican primary listen to Donald Trump. Less than 15% of the people vote in the primaries. If Donald Trump is against you, you're going to lose your primary, or more than likely you'll lose your primary. So they're afraid of him. And the same thing happens on the Democratic side, where people are afraid of the base as well. That's one of the things killing our country. I'm in a seat that Donald Trump won by 19,000 votes. I won by 11,000 votes. That means I had to get 20,000 people voted for Donald Trump to vote for Tom Suozzi. I have to listen to everybody. I can't just listen to my base. I've got to listen to the Democrats. I got to listen to the independents, and I got to listen to the Republicans, and hopefully get some of the disgruntled Republicans. That's the only way I can win.
I think most people are willing to do that until it evolves into some sort of racial or attack on LGBT or whatever, right? I mean, we all know we can have these straight up arguments about policy and economic directions that we want to go for this country, but that's not what we're doing right now. Last question here, and I do really appreciate your time. How long can this last? I mean, and I know the media doesn't really report like they should on what Trump's budget portends again for the American people. So when they're going to be talking, they're going to be showing images of people saying, "I'm not getting a paycheck," or people at TSA working for free, whatever. Right? Those are the headlines. Instead, the headline should be what happens if we do, agree and cave into this budget.
I've talked to a lot of government employees who are really worried. I talked to a guy today who's getting married on Friday, and he's not going to get his paycheck next week. So he's worried.
Right.
I've talked to a lot of people who are in very difficult circumstances. So those are the employees. Then there are constituents worried. How's this going to affect me? I have to get a passport to go to visit my relatives over somewhere else, or I got to get my Social Security check for my mother, or whatever it may be. I mean, people are worried about how this is going to affect them in their lives. And you say, how long can it go on for? I don't think it's going to last. I think the president is concerned about how this is going to affect him. But both sides right now think they're going to win this fight. The Republicans think they have righteousness on their side. The Democrats think we have righteousness on our side. We got to see how this plays out. I'm hoping we can avoid the shutdown altogether sometime late tonight. I don't know how. I don't think that's very likely right now. And if we get in a shutdown, I'm hoping to talk with my Republican colleagues and see if there's some common ground we can find. Let's do a short-term CR. Let's fix the health insurance issue. Let's stop all these rescissions.
I was thinking of you before this interview, watching that crowd at the Ryder Cup, and I was telling people that my experience with golf and Americans is that was not emblematic of who we are as a nation. And I have friends in Ireland. In fact, my wife's going with her friend right now, getting on a plane tonight to go to England. I do think that what the Democrats have done, I think in the last couple of years, is noteworthy to change this perception of weakness, and we can't get it done. But this is going to be one of those moments where people are going to look at our party and ask that question: are we getting it done?
Well, we're fighting to reduce people's health insurance costs, and we're fighting to get more people to have health insurance. So that's the fight we're in right now.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much for your time. You be well, and good luck moving forward.
Thanks, man.